today that it is Texas Chainsaw Massacre Day?
It is.
Yeah.
I thought that's why we were doing it today.
I got told today, and I was like,
coincidence.
wow.
Really. It's a special coincidence, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, it's a great coincidence though.
It is.
And I was speaking to Ron. He messaged and he's like, "Am I in this interview as well?" And I'm like, "I don't think so." He's like, "Whew," because I made plans tonight, and I made plans tonight with a friend, and I don't really want to cancel.
Shame on him.
Oh,
Right.
Oh, there he is. He's in the chat. How's it going, everyone? So, Mass Collector 99, Michael Long, Victoria, Ron. Yes, you are here.
Hey, but I am here. Okay.
What's up, Queen Cujo? Ugh.
Questions here. All right, ready to start?
You know, I've never ever smoked a cigar in my life. I've smoked a cigarello, and I inhaled it.
Yeah.
And I almost threw up instantly.
Well, cigarettes are bad for you, for one thing.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Cigars, you don't inhale them. Don't inhale.
Yeah, I found out the bad way. So, like the cigarellos it's a smaller version. They're usually like flavored. I think someone had like a fruity one. He's like, "Do you want a cigarello?" And it had like a plastic piece on the end.
Yeah, that's a black and mild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had that, and I just like took a big, deep breath, not realizing I was wasted at the time. So,
well, I would feel like I'm not a cigar smoker myself, but I would feel like they're more or less like for occasion or just you're a casual cigar smoker. So
it looks like it's the coolest thing. I think I don't think I could pull it off, but it's such a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Well, it's something to aspire to.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
What's going on, Tony? Shadow Perfection, Fangenstein. How are we doing today? All right, John, start whenever you want, bro.
Awesome. Well, first of all, happy Texas Chainsaw Massacre Day to everyone, which I just personally found out today, and it's the craziest coincidence ever.
Yeah.
But, today, we're joined by Leatherface himself from Texas Chainsaw 3D, Dan Yeager. So thank you very much for joining us today, Dan. We really appreciate you being on.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, we can get started, Al, if you want to start with a question on your end.
Sure. All right. I got a few questions, more or less horror related. How you doing today, Dan? You doing all right, bro?
Hanging in, man. It's a beautiful day.
It actually is. What state are you coming from?
I am in New York.
Oh,
nice.
Is it around this time? Is it normally is it warm? Is it still kind of chilly out there? I don't know.
It has been a profoundly wet summer. Though, you know, the temperature's always nice. It's a little cool today. Finally. It was a little warm and muggy there for a while.
Yeah, because I'm in Canada.
Yeah.
I think we'll get similar sort of weather. It's been pretty muggy here as well, and today it was super stormy last night, so it's cooled right up today, which is great.
Yeah, I'm way down here in Houston, Texas, and it's just hot as hell all the way around. So
yeah.
All right, let's see. So the first question I have for you, Mr. Dan Yeager, is was there any pressure portraying a legendary horror icon such as Leatherface?
The short answer is yes, but you can't really, you know, being iconic is not something you can aspire to, you know. It it either is or it isn't. The iconic part is outside of you. You know, you just, you know, I don't go around being iconic.
Right.
And as you look back on it, it seems like, oh my God, that's a monumental thing to have done. But when you're actually doing it, it's a series of, you know, specific steps, you know, that you kind of go through in preparation and then in execution. You know, it's just doing sorts of little things that, you know, add up to what we know as Leatherface.
And what was the preparation like for doing your version of Leatherface?
Well, I'd always been a fan of the movies, you know, especially the original. I mean, the original, you know, 74 movie was just always my favorite. And you know, I digested that movie, you know, as completely as one can, you know. I mean, that I knew that, oddly, I knew that movie better than 99% of the other movies I know well.
Yeah, hell yes, for sure.
And you know, I think I had an understanding of the character somewhat before I, you know, was tasked with. And you know, the preparation was largely physical.
Of course,
because,
yeah.
You know, you have. I mean, hell, how old was I? I don't know. Pretty old. But it's a very physical, you know, it's a very physical thing.
Absolutely.
Just running with a chainsaw and not falling down is a challenge. You know?
I've never done that before. So.
And those chainsaws, they don't look light. It's always these huge, because from watching it, it looks like the chainsaw has to be made to be bigger than the person who's holding it. So
yeah, well, you always hold it out in front. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then obviously Gunnar Hansen was part of this movie as well.
Mm-hmm.
Did he instill any wisdom or any tips or anything to help you prepare for the character even more?
Yeah, I mean, I read everything he wrote and you know, watched several of his interviews,
Right.
and you know, took it to heart what he said about the character. I didn't meet him until we were probably 3 weeks into production.
Oh, really?
Wow.
And you know, so I had already begun. And you know, I mean, his greatest tutelage on how to play Leatherface is the movie. You know,
yeah.
it's
yeah.
You know, I always tell people the one thing. You know, there were several key characteristics to Leatherface. One, he's really a very sweet, loving character. I always remember that scene where they're preparing dinner, and they got Sally tied up in the chair, and the hitchhiker and Leatherface run upstairs to get Grandpa.
Yes.
And they carry Grandpa down in his chair, and they set him up at the table, and you know, Leatherface, you know, really fusses over him and pats him on the head and kisses him. I mean, you know, people don't really think of that particular part of it, but that's who he is, you know, as a character. And then he's constantly terrified. That's the other thing you have to remember.
Yeah.
And you know, people often mistake him for this you know, monster who's full of rage and anger.
Mm-hmm.
But in the, you know, I think in the pantheon of human emotions, our strongest motivator is fear. You know, we will react to fear, you know, uncontrollably more than any other emotion.
True.
You know, we can keep the other ones in check. That fear is the one that gets us,
yeah.
and that's the one that motivates him.
Absolutely.
You know, and you know, I mean, it's like you know, when you corner a wild animal, look out. You know,
exactly. And I mean,
that's when they're the most dangerous.
Oh, definitely. Because again, when you're cornering a wild animal, you think it's because they're vicious and they're a monster. That's why they want to attack you. But it's you're causing fear to them in a way where they don't know anything other than to react. And I completely 100% agree with that. It's Leatherface. It's almost like a childlike mentality that he has, like you said, patting him on the head and giving him
he's very childlike, definitely.
Yeah. Did you see the prequel, Leatherface? The prequel. Did you see that at all?
No.
No. I watched it recently.
Yeah.
It was okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Well, you know, they sent me that script. Not that I was going to be in it, but they just sent me the script, and I read it. And this was an early draft, and it was, I don't know. I couldn't see how they were going to make, first of all, a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that didn't have a chainsaw in it, and then why make a Leatherface movie where there is no Leatherface, and you know, I mean, it's
pointless.
There's no character wearing a mask.
Yeah, and it's not until the very end where there's this kind of like the way it's built. It builds up that this one character who is he's like a bigger guy and he's very childlike. Right. They build it up so far till you think, oh, this guy's Leatherface, or this guy's gonna be what Leatherface is, and then he dies, and you're like, what? And then
that was the big twist.
Yeah,
you know? It's the pretty boy.
Mm-hmm. And he ends up getting shot in the face by Steven Dorff.
Yeah.
Of all people,
they added that after the script I read.
Oh, really? Really?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, they shot the whole movie in Bulgaria in the summer of I think 2015.
Oh, okay.
And I guess they worked for, you know, a long time, and they finally screened it for Lionsgate, and Lionsgate sent them back to Bulgaria. Said, you know, we're not going to release this.
Wow.
And so they did a lot more work, and so I would assume they figured out the problems and addressed at least some of them. But there were some, you know, I mean, fundamental flaws in the concept. Mm-hmm. But you know, I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the movie yet.
I only watched it because they added it to Netflix a couple months ago, and I just kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and then I was like, you know what? There's nothing else to watch on here, so I'll just give it a watch. I think as a standalone movie, where it's not tied to the story of Leatherface and how his humble beginnings.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been a good, like, sort of almost like an homage to it, but I don't think as a Texas Chainsaw Leatherface movie,
almost like Halloween 3. It has nothing to do with Michael Myers, but on a standalone film, you wouldn't say it's terrible.
Yeah,
I didn't get Halloween 3 though.
Huh?
Yeah, it was kind of a shame because we had a great script that followed, you know, the storyline and characters that they created in 3D. And there was this, power struggle amongst the production companies of who was going to control it. And basically the people who won out, pretty much blew it completely. They lost the rights. They can't make anymore.
Wow.
Because it took them 2 years to make a damn movie.
God.
So who owns the rights now? Any idea?
It reverts back to Vortex, the original rights holders.
Interesting. And in terms of Texas Chainsaw 3D, I feel like it's one of the most underrated ones. Like I really had a lot of fun watching it, I think. And I only found out again recently that the story is supposed to be a sequel to the original, which I found was very, very interesting. Was that something that they explained to you at the time, and when you first read the script, was that apparent to you when you first?
Oh yeah, yeah. It very much was supposed to pick up from the moment Sally escaped, so the end of the original movie, and they were when I first read the script, I said, well, this is a period movie because it's going to take place in the early 90s. Right. And they said, well, no, we're going to make it a modern movie because we have to have, it's kids today don't watch period movies. They don't want that. And so, all these executives in offices made these decisions, and they said, nobody's going to notice that, it's 38 years later instead of 22 years later. And, anyway, of course, everybody does. And,
oh yeah.
That's why they were, in 3D, they were careful never to show any dates. If you look at the cemetery, everybody died on August 19th.
Yeah.
But the year is covered with weeds.
Okay.
So, they knew they were fudging the timeline. Basically, they said it's a 3D horror movie.
Yeah.
We can take some license.
Yeah, of course.
Which they did.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But everybody comments on it like it was a mistake. Oh, they didn't know? No, they knew damn well.
and it's got a really talented young cast as well. Is it I always forget her name.
Alexandra Daddario.
Alexandra Daddario, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did. I think she did great.
Oh yeah.
Trey Songz.
That was his debut. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if he's done anything since. I haven't. I don't keep up.
I didn't notice either. But again, great debut. I thought overall, it was just a great fun movie. Like
yeah.
He did pretty good. But what kind of made me upset is I really wanted him to die by the chainsaw.
Yeah.
Oh man, because I don't want to say he was one of the characters I didn't like. He did well as an actor for his first time, but I guess I don't like him as a musician. So I was like, man, I hope they just slash his ass up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, I can't say I've ever actually heard any of his songs.
What kind of music are you into primarily?
I like all manner of things. I don't know. I listen to what's relevant to whatever project I'm working on.
Okay.
So good.
We just shot our little short, which has Billie Holiday and Fats Waller on the soundtrack. So.
Nice.
Hey Dan, I have a question. It's not even written in my notes. I got the feeling to ask this. You come off as a very wise individual, and I'm curious on your answer to this. What do you feel, in your own opinion, what do you feel draws someone to loving the horror genre?
I don't know. I've speculated about that. The one thing I've noticed in meeting thousands of horror fans, people who go to horror conventions, you know, real hardcore fans. They are universally nice people. I mean, remarkably nice people. There's some, you know, they're just the nicest people you can meet, and which made me wonder when I first noticed it. And I think to enjoy horror as entertainment is an odd thing when you try to wrap your head around it.
For sure.
And I think to really enjoy it and get any human pleasure out of it and not be a complete sociopath, you have to have an elevated sense of empathy.
Of course.
And so I think that's what most horror fans seem to possess. And it just makes them nicer people.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. I also feel like me and Al actually had a conversation about this the other night. It's more common for people to identify as the killer than people to identify as the victim. And they're predominantly rooting for the person who's wielding a chainsaw or wielding a machete. And I find that very interesting as well.
Well, I think in the aftermath of any horror movie, yeah, the coolest part of a horror movie is, you know, the killer and the, you know, I mean, they're the anti-hero of the picture. But in the experience of watching a horror movie, like I say, unless you're a sociopath or a psychopath, you know, it really is about, you know, the victims. That's one reason I like a lot of the old monster movies.
Right.
Is that, you know, they weren't just, you know, crazy human killers. They were otherly.
Yes.
Which
we spoke to Ari Lehman last week, a couple of weeks ago, and he's got huge admiration for the Universal monster era. His favorite was the Mummy. I always liked the creature from Black Lagoon. I always found him interesting. What was yours, Al?
My absolute favorite was the Invisible Man. I loved him. Absolutely loved him. Just for some reason, I don't know. I just identified with him a lot growing up. With his, he was just crazy guy, but he had good intentions. He just didn't know how to, I guess, expand on them, and then he just went crazy. I don't know. It's really, it's different. But he's my favorite of all. Always has been.
I also really liked Phantom of the Opera. I always liked Lon Chaney.
What about you, Dan Yeager? Who was your favorite Universal monster?
Oh, the Frankenstein monster.
Yeah.
You know.
And again, that's another childlike character, because again, the scene with the little girl, and he's playing, and then he throws her in the water, and he doesn't know that he's drowned her because she can't swim. Powerful stuff. My
favorite scene in that movie is whenever he finally awakens. They put him in his dungeon or whatever, and there's that light, and he's reaching for it, and it shuts, and he just kind of slowly just diminishes. That scene is really powerful.
Yeah.
It's crazy how they did that in the 30s. That's nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, the censors had a hard time with that movie. The scene with the little girl. They finally decided, well, we've got to cut something out of this movie. And so they wanted to cut the part where, you know, he picks up the little girl and throws her in the lake.
Right.
So they actually cut that shot of him throwing her in the lake. And so in the censored version, all you have is this little girl screaming off camera, and then the monster doing something to her. And it is so horrifying that way when you don't see that, you don't get the, oh, you know, I can make a boat, you know.
Right.
You know, you don't get, it's just, oh my God, what the hell is he doing to that kid?
Yeah.
It's not good. And anyway, it was much worse. And they eventually put that scene back in, or that shot.
I had no idea about that. That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel as well, in today's sort of horror, um, it's all about the violence and the payoff of seeing someone getting just mutilated. But I think it's more effective when you don't know what's happening and it's left to
Mm-hmm.
your own imagination. I think that's
Yeah.
extremely effective, especially in horror movies.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's actually one of my questions I have for you. You have any, John, real quick, before asking this?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So, Mr. Yeager, one of my questions here is there anything that you can possibly say as to, is there something horror is lacking in 2018?
Is it lacking? I don't know. I mean, I'm not a, I haven't consumed all the horror out there by any means. So.
Okay.
But there, I wish there was more, there were more, original stories. I think, it may be changing though. Because the studio dominated system is dying. And, we're starting to see more and more, small independent, productions, which is good. However, probably the thing that we're losing that we shouldn't is the actual cinema.
Mm-hmm.
I think our on-demand culture is motivating, creators to create stuff that is just salacious and, it's, I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of really good stories being told anymore. It's, and the internet has changed the landscape in profound ways. Everybody is a critic now.
Absolutely, yeah.
And people have told me my movie was shit who didn't see it in a theater. They watched it on their computer screen. They stole it and watched it on their computer screen, and my movie was, which,
Exactly.
bless their hearts, but they don't know what they're missing. They don't, their local movie theater closed down because, Netflix and all these other, video on demand. Our on demand culture is really, is really changing things. We used to all have to meet in a place at a time and sit in the dark with strangers and watch horror movies or watch any movies.
Yeah.
It was a different experience. And then we would leave that theater and, go back out into the same community, all having had that same experience. So, we're losing that as a society, which is bad, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. It was an occasion. It was a special event when you got to go to the cinema, and
Yeah.
you were with. Because I used to do it even within the last 10 years or so, even last 15 years. Me and a group of friends I went to high school with. It was every Friday or every other Friday. We would all just meet at the cinema. We would just pick a movie that was there. We would just all go in, like maybe like 10, 15 of us. We'd just go to the cinema and just see anything. And it was just we'd all just kind of immerse ourselves in it. And then after it, you would go and you would talk about it and you would tell people about it, and it was like it was a magical experience.
Mm-hmm.
And because I remember, it's a very terrible example, but I remember going to see Paranormal Activity in the theater, and everyone was raving about this movie, like, oh, it's so scary, and I was like, yeah, whatever. So I went, and the subtleties in terms of the score with the sort of low frequency bass noises to make you feel uneasy, like that was just amplified through the theater experience. That's not something you're going to get watching through your laptop or watching through your computer or your Netflix or whatever, because it's just going to the cinema. It's an immersive experience, and I felt that with Paranormal Activity. It did genuinely scare me.
Yes.
Paranormal stuff, I feel, is one along the lines of one of the scariest things that you can ever encounter. Because I've had a couple of those, but it was terrifying. And I went to see Insidious. That was terrifying as well. Just I went to see it in the movies, and
well, they got The Nun coming out in September. And I'm not going to watch that, you know.
Yeah.
I have something from childhood that makes me scared of nuns, so I'm probably going to catch that on Redbox. Not going to lie to you.
Well, I hope you have a big TV and a good sound.
I won't for that film.
Well, I mean, they took the Nun trailer off of YouTube because apparently it's too scary. Which I heard recently. I think it was Bloody Disgusting reported on it.
Yeah.
They took the trailer for The Nun down because it's too scary.
Yeah, that's probably a gimmick, bro.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's all for sale.
See right through that.
All right, let me see.
I'm a terrible skeptic, though. You know.
Oh, with that though, might be right.
Oh yeah.
Because I had the same idea to do for a movie we're working on. So.
Oh, currently?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't even finished the script yet, but I'm already working on the marketing.
Oh, excellent.
So, Miss Yeager, when you were growing up, were you big into like Halloween as a child?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like.
Yeah, I grew up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up in a little town in Ohio, and yeah, Halloween was huge. And it was, you know, real classical. Everybody participated.
Yep.
You know, I mean, it was an event.
Yes.
And Ohio, Northeast Ohio has as crappy summers as you know, Central New York, and you know, we'd end up being stuck inside a lot, and the winters are bad too, or they were. I don't think they're as bad now.
So,
but we had a big basement. And my brother, I credit my brother with my love of horror, really, because he just had a mind for it, and we would just haunt the basement. We would create, you know, various scenes in the basement and invite the kids from the neighborhood over, you know, and it didn't have to be Halloween. We didn't care. We just liked to scare them.
Yeah. So, piggybacking off that question, my question for you is, do you feel like Halloween in this day and age is starting to deplete? Because, for example, I took my children to Halloween last year trick-or-treating, and nowadays, in the more popular areas of my city, it's starting to actually kind of slow down, it seems. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think there are all sorts of forces at play that, you know, are changing the way we relate to such things. You know, well, you know, if you really enjoy horror, turn on CNN. You know, it's full of it on a daily basis. And so, you know, it's, I don't know, it's a different world, man. You know, it's just, it's a different world. And, you know, there's, you know, certainly the theories of child rearing have changed since I was a kid. You know, I never wore a helmet, never had any knee pads or elbow pads, and you know, I picked wild onions and ate them, you know, with the dirt still on them. You know, and yeah, you know, I think parents have been scared into, you know, way overprotecting their children because, you know, you'll see, I mean, it used to, I don't know if the incidents of child murder have increased over the years, but we sure know about them.
Yep.
You know, and every, you know, every horrible thing that happens in the world, you can watch it happen now, you know, because somebody had a damn phone in their pocket with a camera.
Mm-hmm. Which isn't so much of a bad thing. I think it's good that people can expose such things. I guess it makes you more aware of your bubble, so to speak. Like you're speaking of kids with the helmets, and there's just a huge bubble in our society now. So I feel like it's kind of good that they're able to expose specific things that are happening, but it's also pretty fucked up or sad as well.
Yeah, well, but you know, you have to keep a perspective of you know, statistical probability. You know,
yeah.
It seems like more and more horrific things are happening, and the world has become a more dangerous place. But it's actually probably become safer. But our reactions have become, you know, and is it safer because we are all scared and more cautious? I don't know, but
True.
We're definitely in a constant state of fear.
You're absolutely right. The scariest thing you can probably watch today is the news, because they'll show you stuff on there uncut, just atrocities that really you can't even think of to be included in a horror movie. It's just real life is the scariest thing that can happen, and
I agree.
It's pretty crazy. But still on the back of Halloween, as a kid, were you one to dress up when you were when you were a kid? What was your favorite costume that you had as a kid?
I don't know if I had a favorite.
Or one that stood out.
I never, you know, kids had used, you know, they'd wait until the day of Halloween and they'd pull together a hobo costume. And that was always cheating. I never went that route.
Yeah.
I always tried to do something.
Yeah. Personally, my favorite was I went as Luke Skywalker, and this was this is back in the early 90s. I went as Luke Skywalker, and my mum had made mine was just like a karate costume, and I had like a utility belt, and then I tucked my socks into my white shoes, and I had like the green lightsaber, and I thought it was the coolest guy ever. And then my mum made this like perfect Princess Leia costume for my sister. So we just went round and we just killed the neighborhood, man. We were just cleaning out houses with a candy. Everyone absolutely loved it. But she used like a hairband, and then she wrapped fake hair into these two buns here. Oh, it was incredible. And that was one of my favorites. Also making a trash bag Dracula costume.
Yeah.
Like a school shirt.
Yeah.
Blood, trash bag tied around your neck.
And that's shit that kids aren't going to experience these days. You know, they're gonna. That's old. That's just good stuff right there. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And we normally have a third host. He's just moved, so but his question he likes to ask is when you're going to sit down and watch a horror movie, what are your go-to snacks, either in the cinema or at home? What are your
Um,
snacks?
well, you can't beat popcorn.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's just the thing. Um, Popcorn and Reese's peanut butter cups, I'd have to say.
I went to go watch The Slender Man, and that's the exact same thing I had.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I watched The Slender Man of all movies, but the popcorn and Reese's was delicious.
Yeah. Salty, sweet,
Yeah.
the best.
Oh yeah.
You throw it in there with the popcorn.
Mm-hmm.
It just has that mixture.
Well, you hand crushed hot Cheetos and threw them in the popcorn as well?
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Well, that's pretty advanced. I don't.
He's Al's a hot Cheetos connoisseur.
Yeah. I actually contacted the owner or the dude that made up Hot Cheetos, and I was like, hey, I got this fantastic idea you need to hear about. He hasn't gotten back to me yet, but it was just funny. So
You could be onto something.
it's possible. Sure. So what was your partake in Sharknado 4? I saw that was on your IMDb.
Yeah, I was in that. Anthony Ferrante is a big Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan, and you know the chainsaws throughout the Sharknado franchise.
Yes.
You know,
yeah, there's a lot.
were in homage to Texas Chainsaw, but he wanted to do a true homage, and I think he had actually started writing the script. He and I can't remember the writer's name when Gunnar Hansen passed away, because they were going to try and get Gunnar Hansen.
Okay.
And anyway, they went ahead and wrote the thing. And it was, I don't know, a couple of weeks before they were going to shoot it. And they had reached out to Bill Moseley, and they were trying to get a couple of other people. And they couldn't find anybody to play Leatherface. And a buddy of mine was doing the props. He made a lot of the props for the movie. And he was sitting in a meeting with him, and this came up, and he said, "Oh, I know Leatherface. He's a friend of mine." I said, "You're kidding."
I know Leatherface.
So he calls me up. He says, "Hey," yeah, and he had mentioned it to me, 6 months before. He says, "Yo, we're doing a Texas Chainsaw homage in the next Sharknado. Maybe you could be in it." And I said, "Yeah, I'm happy to be in a Sharknado movie." And so he calls me up and he says, "Remember we were talking about Sharknado?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, what are you doing? 2 weeks from Saturday?" I said, "Well, I got no plans." He says, "Well, would you do it?" I said, "Sure." And the character I played in the script, his name was Gunnar.
Wow.
So, I had to do it. Anyway, it was fun. And you'll note that most of the people who do cameos in Sharknado movies end up victims of Sharknadoes. But I was very pleased that when I finally saw it, in all this, dancing around I was doing with the chainsaw, pretending like I was fighting sharks, I ended up slicing a shark in half with the chainsaw.
Amazing.
And not dying. So that was good.
It's an accomplishment.
I gotta watch that now.
Yeah, see, I started watching the Sharknadoes. I think I got to halfway through the third one. I watched 3 in the same day.
Yeah, quitter.
Halfway through the third one, and it was late at night, and I'm like, So I'm gonna go back and watch them. What are your feelings on the new one that's coming out? I think it's coming out. Is it next Friday?
Yeah, they released. Yeah, I think it's going. Well, it's on Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know when it airs, but yeah, they're a good bunch. I caught the tail end of the trailer somewhere, and I mean, they're time traveling. It looks like good stupid fun.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one. I need to watch them though.
Yeah, the first one's interesting, and it just kind of went almost like viral. Everyone was talking about it and saying how bad it is, so it made people want to go and watch it even more to see. Oh yeah, I've watched this terrible movie, and then they just kept going 2, 3, 4, 5, and I mean, fair play to them. I mean, they're fun. They are fun movies. They're not
original.
Yeah.
And then they got that damn they got Clown NATO coming out.
Clown NATO, yeah.
So that's interesting. I got one more question for him. If you don't mind, John.
Yeah.
The last one I have. I would like to know 3 horror movies that everyone loves that you dislike.
A good question.
I was really disappointed in The Witch.
Oh,
thank you.
Because basically it's not a horror movie, but it was sold as a horror movie.
I'm cutting this out. Yeah, that's true.
And that really kind of just annoyed me. And I kept thinking, oh man, this movie could have been so good in the hands of a real, horror movie director.
Agreed.
If Clive Barker had made it, you would have seen William the Black Goat talk. He wouldn't have just been talking in your head. You would have seen it. And it could have been really, I had high hopes at the beginning of the movie when the old witch was cutting the pecker of the baby off. I thought, oh man, this is going to be good. But then that was the highlight of the movie. From then on, it was just a descent into madness, which the witch trials were.
Yeah.
Of course.
The whole witch mania of the 17th and 18th century was, probably just a case of mass hysteria. It was particularly annoying because in the lead up to the release of that movie, I had been thinking, oh man, we've got to make a really good witch movie. My buddy Ron had just taken me to Salem, and we walked through the cemeteries and, saw a bunch of the tourist stuff. And I picked up a great book, an actual, historical account of the witch trials called, can't remember, but damn, it was a good book. And, I read this thing and I thought, man, this really would make a great horror movie. And you could use, actual dialogue from, historical record, and it would be really great. And to make it a horror movie, in all of the books written, after the fact, they were either written that, it was some kind of religious religious manifestation of hysteria or something. Nobody ever really believed that Satan was sitting in the rafters of the courtroom when the girl was testifying, saying he's sitting right there. In the horror movie, of course, he is.
Yeah.
And nobody's ever made that movie. And I really thought that's what The Witch was supposed to be, because they kept talking about all these, books and stuff that were written, at the time and after, and how they took passages direct. I thought, oh, this is the movie I wanted to make, and it was not. It was not even close.
Ron just mentioned there the book was called A Delusion of Satan.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah, great book. Bought it in a bookstore in Salem.
Wow, that's really cool. And apparently Ron was there today.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. That's cool.
He's friends with the guy who runs this Count Orlok's crap. I'm terrible. Ron, type the name of the place. Give him a.
We've got a question from one of our viewers as well. Shattered Perfection is her name on here. Jessica, and she said, "What made you audition as Leatherface, and what was your favorite part of the movie? Was it with or without Leatherface?"
I did not audition for Leatherface.
Really?
I happened to be friends with the producer. I met him right about the time he had bought the rights to the franchise, and it took him, a couple of years to develop the script. I think it probably took him, a year before he really jumped into it. And anyway, as he developed it, he knew I was an actor and a writer, and he would, he would run the script past me as they were developing, and I'd always give him good notes.
Right.
And then he decided to hire his buddy John Lessenhop to direct it, and he's enough of a producer to know, that he should never just shove an actor down the director's throat. You got to respect the director. And so he told him, I have a friend you might consider for the role, but that was about all he said. And then he invited us both to his house for a Christmas party, and didn't tell me that the director would be there, and didn't tell him that his friend who should play Leatherface would be there. Mm-hmm. And John actually wrote an article for the Huffington Post about when we met. And actually we did not meet at that party. He tells the story, and I might get the details a little bit wrong. I was standing by the door, just kind of watching the party, looking, I guess. I intimidate people just standing around.
You know what? I don't mean to cut you off, but I was telling John that before you came on. I was like, dude, yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I have a lot of personal things going on with my kids and stuff. So I was like, dude, I just watched one of his interviews, and I'm a little nervous. Like, why?
Yeah.
I was like, the tone of his voice, this dude sounds like straight shot Johnny Cash kind of MFer. So like, yeah, I have my shit together. My question.
I'll take that.
I ain't gonna lie to you.
But anyway, I was just standing there, kind of watching the party, and my natural resting expression is one of, I will admit, when I walk into a room, I often evaluate whether or not I can kill everybody there.
Nice.
It's a good practice, in case there's ever trouble.
Yeah.
You pick the guy who's going to give you problems if there's a problem. And so anyway, I don't care for parties generally. It was a Christmas party, and I tried to be,
Christmassy.
Anyway, John was apparently standing there having a conversation with Mark Berg, and Mark's Mark used to run Twisted Pictures.
Okay.
And Mark was saying something that I guess he thought was really engaging, but John kept looking past him over his shoulder. And finally, Mark got pissed off and said, "Man, she better be really hot, or you're just the biggest asshole in the world," because he wasn't listening.
Yeah.
And John swears, he wrote it in the article, that he said, "I think I'm looking at Leatherface."
Wow.
And so, you know, I met him like the following week, and we talked about the character. And physically, you know, I mean, you know, I've been to the gym, but you know, I don't bodybuild or anything. You know, and I don't know. Physically, you know, I guess I was sufficiently intimidating that, you know, between that and the fact that, you know, I knew the movie inside and out, he felt fairly comfortable in having me sign on to do the role. And Carl vouched for my work ethic, you know, because we were friends. Anyway, yeah, so I never auditioned.
I mean, that's legendary stories. Again, goes to the lore of Leatherface. That's an incredible. That's an iconic story. I think.
See, and I didn't even try to be iconic.
Exactly. Yeah. See, and I think that's iconic is when they don't try to be iconic.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So that's incredible.
It is.
But yeah, I don't really have any other questions either. Do you want to talk a bit about your production company? Where can people find your? I'm going to put the link in the description for the website. But just want to briefly just talk about the Bad Anger Productions.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know, Bad Anger Pictures is something I've been working on for a few years. We have several features in development. We just shot our first short, which is called Volition. We shot it down in Scranton for no money.
Nice.
It was really kind of back to you know, grassroots, you know, guerrilla filmmaking, which was kind of refreshing. It was a little. I tried not to be a dick to everybody because you know, a lot of people, this was the first movie they'd ever worked on.
Right.
And you know, when you work on a you know, a $20 million movie, you know, the level of skill, experience, and professionalism is astounding. You know, people in the movie industry are really dedicated people, and it's an amazing experience. And so, you know, working with people who'd never done it before, but who I was really touched by, you know, the level of you know, enthusiasm and dedication everybody had. I mean, it was a nothing little movie. It's a tiny little movie.
Yeah.
I hope it has a story that resonates with people. It's not a horror movie. Although it has supernatural elements to it. You know, it's basically a sequel to life. So what happens after you die? It's a little exploration of that in a very relatable way. You know, it doesn't get particularly cosmic, but anyway, the picture looks good. I haven't seen all the footage yet. I watched a lot of dailies as we were shooting it.
Cool.
And I don't know. We're going to start cutting it here shortly. We've got everything in the can. We just have to put it together now.
Nice.
Get that Billie Holiday song and get that Fats Waller tune.
Wallace, yeah.
What are you drinking on, Dan? You don't mind me asking. What you sipping on?
Bourbon. Evan Williams, I think.
All right. I got this.
Just regular drinking bourbon.
I got this. I'm just writing down a small list on how to be a badass. So I got bourbon and a cigar, and just try to be as wise as possible. Because
and when you go in a room, scan to see who you can kill.
Right.
Yeah, I need
be confident you kill everybody in the room.
Yeah.
Yes.
If not, make friends with that guy you're a little worried about.
Yes.
Get him on your side.
Awesome.
And then move on. Then just,
I need a really, really badass chair too. So I got some spinning to do later on tomorrow.
Well, we'll put you in. This is my Texas chainsaw chair, or it's actually Leatherface. The working title of the movie was Leatherface 3D.
Wow.
They didn't change it to Texas Chainsaw until later.
Oh, so that chair is worth a little something.
Huh?
That chair is worth a little something, I imagine, because it has the typo.
Oh yeah. Oh, this was a chair. This was a chair I sat in for those 8 weeks or however the hell long it took us to shoot that one.
Long shoots. The daily grind.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And
well, we'll put you in a movie and you'll get your own chair.
Nice.
Love it.
See, I was almost in a movie. I was almost in Snow White and the Huntsman.
Yeah.
And then I found out that I got it was like an extra through this casting agency because they were filming World War Z, Brad Pitt in Scotland, and my friend told me about it. So I went on their website and I applied to the wrong one apparently, or they stopped taking applications. And I got an email from a company and they were looking for someone who had long hair, which I did at the time. I had like shoulder length long hair and like a relatively longer beard than what I have right now. And that's the sort of look they were going for. And I'm like, oh, okay, what's the movie? And it's like Snow White and the Huntsman. And they had no information on it, just Snow White and the Huntsman. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that could be cool. So I looked at it and it was filming down in London. I think you weren't really getting paid that much. And for me to either travel down there every day it wouldn't be feasible, or to go and live down there for like 3 weeks. It just wasn't feasible at the time. And then a couple of years later, when it finally came out, it was like Chris Hemsworth, Kristen Stewart, Charlize Theron. And then that's when Kristen Stewart had that affair with the director, and she got taken out the sequel and like got blacklisted everywhere. And I'm like, oh my God, I almost saw that shit.
So it could have been worth it.
Yeah. And I was like, damn it.
It's awesome.
Can you do like a Southern American accent?
He came to Texas and partied with me this past May, so he might.
Can he pass?
He has
Texas.
No, not really. When I try and do an accent, I mostly offend people because it's like a caricature.
It's just us, man.
Yeah.
Okay. What can a Southern like?
Say
howdy y'all. Howdy y'all.
That was pretty good.
One-liner. Boom.
There you go. Caspi is a Southern gentleman.
Yeah.
Not a gentleman.
Parlor for some white cake.
We'll black out a couple of teeth, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, it's cool.
just take the teeth, man. I'll do method. Just take them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And we got asked there if you're going to be at any conventions in New York anytime soon.
I know. Are there any conventions in New York? Yeah, we're doing that thing in Texas.
Yeah,
that's next.
Yeah.
Actually, Brett Wagner may come back to Syracuse for October. They do a big haunted something in Syracuse, so I may go up there for that. Nice. We don't know. We haven't heard yet.
Of course.
Yeah, because I know you're going to Bastrop for a cult classic.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Really Are you going to be there?
Yeah, I'm going to be there. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll bring some cigars. We'll work on it.
That sounds awesome.
There you go. You can get lessons from the man himself.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Badass lessons. Nice. Because we interviewed David Howard Thornton. It was the first interview we ever did, and he's going to be at Cult Classic Convention as well. He played Art the Clown and Terrifier that came out this year.
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't see that yet, but
I love it. We love it, and he's a great dude. He's a great dude.
Yeah,
he's going to be there. It looks like a great convention. I can't make it, but I'm going to be going to Texas Frightmare next year. So if you happen to potentially end up in Dallas next May,
I go where they tell me to go.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. But
I got a guy who handles all that.
Nice.
Okay. Well, if you decide to somehow walk into a room and scare everybody, say you want to go to Dallas, Texas Frightmare weekend, I'll have a bottle of bourbon for you.
All right.
That's a deal.
I like it.
God. Al, we need to stop offering people drinks. We already owe Ari Lehman a bottle of Johnny Walker Red.
Yeah.
But
Ain't no bourbon though. Bourbon's
that's true.
I do like Scotch, so you know.
Oh, I've got I think it's a 14-year-old Glenfiddich,
Oh yeah.
and I've polished off a 12-year-old one too.
Yeah.
It's just over there. Yeah, I've got 14-year-old left, so maybe I'll bring that.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get some real Scotch action going. But yeah.
There's a liquor store in Van Nuys, California, called the Wine and Liquor Depot. We'll give them a little plug. They had when I lived there, the largest collection of cask strength scotches outside of Scotland.
Wow.
And they had some incredible stuff that you would just never find anywhere but Scotland.
Yeah.
You know, there are tons of little distilleries all over the place, you know, who they don't have any real distribution. And so I used to go in there and, you know, when I had money, buy, you know, $150 bottles of scotch, and just, you know, and some of them were 30 years old.
Yeah.
Actually, I had one I bought for my I bought myself for my 40th birthday that was 40 years old.
Nice.
Man, was that delicious. I made it last for 2 years, I think.
Sweet.
Oh, yeah. And it's totally right what they say. It just gets better with age.
Sure.
And I didn't start drinking Scotch until this year, I think, because I got two bottles as a gift. Because I'm only like 27.
Yeah, to think about that.
Yeah, because I sometimes I think I'm 26, sometimes I think I'm 28. Today I'm 27. But yeah, I got the 2 bottles as a gift from someone that is like a manager of a liquor store, and I'm like, a very thoughtful gift. They just keep giving me alcohol because I'm from Scotland, and that's kind of the only relatable gift that they can find for me. So I've just got alcohol everywhere.
Nice. All right.
Yeah. I don't have anything.
I'm done. I got all my questions done. He was an amazing guest.
Yeah. Thank you again.
You guys did a great job.
Appreciate it. Thank you again for joining us. It was 110% our pleasure. You've been a great guest. The wisest guest that we've had. So
The
thank
wisest.
you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't mention that to Ari.
Oh, he was he was nowhere near.
Well,
go ahead.
he's an interesting thinker, Ari
Yes.
Lehman, and he's a great guy. We had such a blast talking to him, and he's just like 100% on it all the time. Woo! He was singing. He was showing his. We were talking about Godzilla. Like there was this. I felt like Craig Ferguson. If you ever watched Craig Ferguson when he was interviewing people, anytime anyone came out, he rips up his cars and he just throws them away and he just talks. That's how it felt, and it was just was a lot of fun.
He reminds me of Mike Myers from Wayne's World. That's kind of like he's like just that's the kind of vibe I get.
World.
Yeah. But yeah, you've been a fantastic guest, Dan. I'm glad having you on the show. Really
My
awesome.
pleasure.
And you're always welcome back. Everyone's always welcome back. We always invite people back again if there's anything. Because I mean, when the short comes out, more than welcome to come on and talk about it or let us know, and we'll blast that around social media as well. So,
all right. Well, we'll get it at a few film festivals.
Fantastic.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Fantastic. All right. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. Again, thanks to Dan for joining us. Hope everyone has a good evening, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye, guys.